Well, welcome to this edition of the Botanical Medicine Study Course with me, Stephanie Georgiev, your host and instructor for the online course in all things botanical medicine. Welcome to all new viewers and a big shout out to all new and longtime subscribers. Well, it's that time of year again here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's back to school time. And that means one thing, a constant stream of various colds, flus, and infections. I affectionately, and I do mean that, I affectionately call children germ balls. And anybody that teaches school or has a small child will definitely agree with that little nickname. We don't want to call it to their face, though. And while the exposure that children get to all the bugs at school does help them in the long run to strengthen their immunity, it can get tiresome to constantly be dealing with runny noses and so on. So, with all the recent obstacles concerning pandemics, post-pandemics, and whatnot, and also the fact that less and less antibiotics are actually successful, or a child seems to be on them constantly, it's good to, it's a challenge to keep healthy during this time of year. Now, on a completely different subject, it's also a delicious time of year. With all the late summer fruits and vegetables coming in, I call this time of year ratatouille time because of all the incredible tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, zucchini, and so on filling the farmers markets. So for this week's Herb of the Week, we're gonna combine things. We're going to explore a delicious and very healing herb that goes marvelously with ratatouille and all of the bounty of this time of year, oregano. Now, Oreganum vulgare is the Latin binomial term for oregano. And excuse me, anytime you see vulgare in the term, the binomial, that basically means common. It doesn't mean that it's vulgar, it means it's common. And this is a species of flowering plant in the mint family, Laminaceae. Originally native to the Mediterranean region, Oreganum has been naturalized almost everywhere that it has a temperate northern hemisphere climate. Now, the mint family, Laminaceae is the mint family. It's probably the most medicinally utilized families of all plant groupings, mainly because this plant family has large amounts of essential oils present in the leaves and the flowers. In fact, it is the high concentration of essential oil in oregano which makes it both delicious as well as healing. Greece, Israel, and Turkey are known for producing very high quality oregano and oregano essential oils. And one can enjoy this herb in many of their traditional dishes. It is oregano, actually, that makes pizza sauce. Pizza sauce. When I lived in the Bay Area and in Napa, I volunteered at Copia, which was the American Center for Food, Wine, and the Arts. They had an edible demonstration garden with a special area for children. And there was a pizza garden where all the herbs and vegetables used to make pizza were growing. And as you guessed it, there was a large oregano plant that was present for the children to observe, smell, and taste. Now, oregano is a woody perennial plant, and this can grow anywhere from 20 to 80 centimeters or 8 to 31 inches tall. And it has opposite leaves that are, a little small. Sometimes they can get a little big. They're about half an inch to an inch and a half. or 1 to 4 centimeters long. The flowers can be white, pink, or light purple. And these are produced in erect spikes in the summer. The ancient Greeks and Romans used the leaves as an antiseptic and for treating skin sores, aching muscles, and stomach aches. They also used it for coughs, colds, and other respiratory diseases. And usually what they did was they used this in oregano tea, or they steeped oregano in wine, and they used this for snake bites. Now, in the old days, before formal pharmacy and before the onslaught of exotic formulas from Asia and the Arab world, infusing, pun intended, the Western world, most herbal medicine was found in the forest, meadow, or along streams and rivers, and it would also be grown in specific gardens, particularly in monasteries. They always had a physic, that's what they called it, and that's where they grew all their medicinal herbs, but most of these were used actually in food. So instead of pills and syrups, most herbs were taken in the form of things like souped, herbed and mulled wine. They would make cookies out of herbs. They would mix them in cheeses, and they would take them as teas. Herbs found in the forest and meadows would also be put into oils and infuse the oils, and they would mix the oil with things like wax, lanolin, or lard to make plasters or salves. And plasters is kind of a fancy term for a thick herbal paste or a paste with herbs in it that's put directly onto the skin. Oregano is one of those herbs often used in this manner. In fact, it's very hard to find oregano in older herbals. You can find oregano in aromatherapy books, and obviously in scholarly articles, but it was the line was so fused with cooking that there really isn't a whole lot of information specifically for oregano as a medicinal herb all by itself. Now, as I said before, the ancient Greeks and Romans used leaves as an antiseptic for treating skin sores, muscle aches. They also used it for stomach aches, coughs, and colds, and other respiratory diseases. And they also steeped it in wine and used the herbed wine for snake bites. Now, when we think of oregano in botanical medicine terms, it really is the essential oil that is the medicinal part. And much of the information we can find on oregano comes from aromatherapy and essential oil repertories. Now, if you do not have access to gel caps, and I have never seen like powdered oregano in a capsule, I've never seen it. That only means I haven't seen it. What is mostly available on the market is oregano oil in a gel cap, and it's usually in some sort of carrier oil like almond oil or sunflower oil or some other type of carrier oil. Now, if you don't have access to these capsules and you think oregano oil would help you and you have essential oil of oregano, you can always put a drop or two of the essential oil in a spoonful of honey. And this is a lovely way to get this healing agent down. Doing it straight can cause you to see things like sparks. I wouldn't recommend that. It's pretty strong and it could burn. But if you mix it up with a little honey, I think you'll be fine. You can also add either fresh or dried oregano to things like soups and stews. And this is a yummy way to a good cold and flu home treatment. Now, the chemical constituents of oregano oil are quite legion, and I think it'd be really fun to run a test. You put these in something called a gas chromatogram, and you get these squiggly little lines that tell you what's in it. So anybody that's taken organic chemistry knows that this is part of your lab work. Now, most of what it makes up the essential oil of oregano is in different types of what are called terpenes. And they're things like carvacrol, thymol, gamma terpenine. You can see linalool, terpenin 4-ol. There's all these different ols. And the big healer is the carvacrol. And this also is the identifying substance that makes oregano different than very other similar plants. Now, the herbal actions of oregano essential oil is that it has very powerful anti-inflammatory properties. It also is mostly known for its antimicrobial and antibacterial. And it's really good to start this as a therapy if you know you have an infection, which most of us know when we have infections, and it's usually a pretty high fever and you're blowing or spitting up yellow to green mucus. That's usually a good sign. So even if you are on a course of antibiotics, this is a good thing to add to the mix, literally, in a soup or a tea or a stew, something like that. So it's really good for bacterial infections in general. And it's really a powerful antifungal, particularly internal. If you take it internally, it really helps that. And this used to be the go-to therapy for candida, which the term and the disease states, which seems to have reached its peak popularity in terms of everyone having it. There are certain diseases that certain people get a hold of, and they write books and all sorts of things. And we just get these problems, and then everybody has them and everybody wants to deal with them. And I'm not saying that candida does not exist. It does exist, but it's good to get a real test, not spit into some water and see if your spit floats, which was a test that was given for this. But anyways, get yourself tested, have your doctor do some, good urine, and patch tests and blood work to see if you actually have this. But this was the go-to therapy for candida. And what a lot of women have is what we would call chronic vaginal yeast infections. And don't do things like douche with this. That would really be harmful. But taking the oregano oil in a gel cap is very good as part of a really holistic treatment where you need to look at your diet. People that develop candida usually their bodies aren't dealing with sugar very well. So you need to address your diet that way and look at other supplements, but oregano was always a good go-to for that. The other thing that oregano does is they're finding that it lowers cholesterol and blood fats, which I think is interesting. It also lowers blood pressure and it helps to regulate blood sugar. The other thing is that it's very high in antioxidants. And this means anything that antioxidants do, oregano does. And diets that are high in antioxidants tends to be really good for the heart. Now the helps regulate blood sugar. The carvacrol, that wonderful substance in the essential oil as well as thymol are the ones that help regulate blood sugar. So there's just so many reasons to just include this in your diet. You don't necessarily have to take it as an essential oil, just have it in your diet. And all of these wonderful things will be yours. Now, there is a big controversy over marjoram versus oregano. And these are different species of the same family, but they have distinctly different tastes and chemical makeups. And the essential oils are used differently. Oregano and marjoram are the same genus, meaning it's oreganum, but they're different species or hybrids. And marjoram refers to Oreganum marjorana. And I think that would be a wonderful name for a racehorse. Marjoram leaves tend to be more gray-green in color than oregano, and the leaves are generally smaller. Oregano refers to Oreganum vulgare, and this is more pungent in flavor. Marjoram is sweeter. Now, there are two primary chemicals associated with culinary oreganums, and they are carvacrol, you remember that, and saponine hydrate, which was, I don't think that was on the slide I showed you. Now, I did show you carvacrol, and carvacrol is the signature chemical largely responsible for the sharp, pungent, and healing aspects of Oreganum vulgare. Now, sabine hydrate is the signature chemical linked to Oreganum marjarana, and it makes it much sweeter. Now, I will explore marjoram in a future video, but just know that these are actually very different. And we tend to use these more as in cooking than we do medicinally. And how we know they're really, really different is that some recipes call for both marjoram and oregano, or the recipe will call for one or the other. So that's enough now for the debate between marjoram and oregano. I don't know if we have team marjoram and team oregano. I'm team, let's do both. They're so yummy. Now, for me personally, oregano is a must-have in my kitchen. Fresh or dried, it adds an amazing flavor to anything. And it's always that little kick at the end, which when it's not there, I miss it desperately. It's really good with anything to do with tomatoes. It's wonderful in eggs and omelets. It's really good with, chicken, fish, and pork. It's excellent with any kind of cooked vegetable you can think of. And to me, it also adds a wonderful flavor to salad dressing, particularly vinaigrettes. It's your go-to herb for real Mediterranean flavor. Now, there is something called Mexican oregano, and this is just a misnomer. It's Mexican oregano is actually a part of the verbena family. It's called Verbenaceae, which is a tropical plant. And as we know, Mexican is more of regular oregano is more of a Mediterranean plant. So these are totally unrelated. They do share some flavor profile, but back to our oregano vulgare, Greek and Italian foods would not really be the same without this fragrant herb. And there's certain people that don't like certain herbs. And I have a cousin who's Greek, and she doesn't like oregano. And I'm like, you have to hand in your Greek card. You can't be Greek if you don't like oregano, but she doesn't like it. But Greek and Italian foods are just made absolutely fabulous with oregano. And I personally like oregano in things like focaccia. I also like it in the herb mixture with olive oil and balsamic vinegar for dipping bread into. It's really yummy. It pairs really well with other herbs like basil, garlic, pepper, and thyme. My only suggestion is to add it at the end of your cooking so that the essential oils do not vaporize quickly and you get the most bang for your buck, as they say in culinary lingo. Now, growing oregano is very easy. And this herb, in my opinion, is really a must-have in any garden. It's really beautiful and it attracts pollinators and it just smells so lovely. And as you can imagine, this herb likes a lot of sun, being the Mediterranean sort. And like many plants, it does really well in well-drained soil. So don't plant it on top of clay, won't work. It's also great for a container garden or as a potted plant. And you might want to have it in your kitchen year round. You can take it outside in warmer weather so it can attract bees and then bring it in the winter. I have a link in the program notes on a really sweet article on everything you could wish to know about growing oregano. So, however you wish to incorporate this lovely plant into your life, in your garden, in your cuisine, in aromatherapy, as part of a healing regimen, if you're sick, if you're well and you want to remain well, this is your go-to herb. So make sure to check out all the links in the program notes. And this is Stephanie Georgia saying thanks again to all long-term subscribers. Welcome to new subscribers. And until next time, be well.